All right, we are live, and I'm going to push live on Instagram real quick. See if we can get this going up and going. All right, so we are live. So welcome, everybody. Excited, very excited today to have Mark Lamb with us. Um, Mark almost needs no introduction. He's an absolute stud and former, sheriff down there in Arizona. Mark, I don't know if you want to give a little introduction to yourself real quick, so I don't mess anything up. We'll let you have that.
Well, it's great to be on with you guys today. We got a chance to finally meet in person out at SHOT Show back just a few weeks ago in Las Vegas. And you guys doing your business with Klinger holsters. Obviously, we're in, we're all in love this 2A and guns and America. It's part of the reason why I did what I did running for sheriff and was fortunate enough to be the sheriff for 8 years in Pinal County, Arizona, which is between Phoenix and Tucson. It's the third largest county in the state of Arizona. And I was blessed to be the sheriff there for a while. I ran for the U.S. Senate, did not win that race, so I had to retire at the end of 2024. So I've been retired for a little over a year now and still involved heavily in the law enforcement space. As a matter of fact, just got back from the National Sheriff's Association Conference and the Major County Sheriff's Association Conference last week in Washington, D.C., and love this profession. I'm unapologetic about my defense of this profession and how important it is for America. And so I guess if you're asking who I am, I'm an unapologetic, authentic defender of God, family, freedom, and the Constitution.
I love that. Love it. And I support you 1000%. So
Thank you.
you absolutely have my support. As far as Bo, so Bo, do you want to give an introduction to yourself real quick, and then we'll just kind of kick it.
Yeah, it's not going to be anywhere near that. um, so I own Klinger Holsters. It's family owned and operated. We focus on the concealed carry side of things. So that's our main product line is just making sure that people can find something that they can comfortably use to carry all day long.
Yeah.
Nah,
So
your intro was better. Your intro was better. Look, that's a big deal. Finding the right holster, that is a big deal. I've been using the same outside the waistband holster for a long time. For most of the time I was the sheriff, or when I'm off duty, all that. So finding the right holster is key.
Yeah, 100%. Bo's holsters are like the most versatile holsters on the market. So they're modular to what you need and how you want to carry. And if you want to change your carry style, it's just a couple adjustments and you're there, which is amazing. So
Bo, do you got them for the Walther PDP?
I do, all of them.
Right.
So
All right,
Walther's headquarters is about 10 minutes away.
Well, I'm gonna jump on I'll have to jump on and get one. I need a good one. I've tried a couple different ones, but I need a good one for my Walther.
Yeah,
we've got them.
This is awesome. Awesome. So today, Mark, one of the connections that we had with you was that Bo is the title sponsor for the Heroes United gala that's coming up here at the end of this month, and you are a keynote speaker there, and so this is kind of how we connected with you and originally of like, hey, we gotta have a like conversation on this. The Heroes United, they're doing huge things as far as PTSD and veteran and first responder suicide and trying to eliminate it. I know that's like probably an impossible task, but doing something about it, right? And which is huge. So this is what I wanted to kind of hear a conversation with today. I know you're a busy guy, and we really appreciate your time on this. And with you being able to speak at that event, like you obviously have, experiences and thoughts on it, and I just think it's worth just a cool conversation. So I appreciate you jumping on with us this morning, and we can kick it off with that. What if you want to kind of share some of the original kind of thoughts and meanings behind just that topic of PTSD? Um, that would be great.
Yeah. And look, thank you, Bo and EJ, for being sponsors, Klinger Holsters for being sponsors of this event. As I mentioned, I'm still very involved in the law enforcement space. One of the companies I still work with, Vitania, that's what these guys focus on, is mental health for law enforcement, how to deal with the trauma that we go through. The average person doesn't realize that the average police officer in a full career will go through anywhere between 400 and 700 traumatic experiences in their career, where the average citizen only goes through 2 to 4. So we experience things oftentimes on a daily basis that leave a lasting impact. You think it doesn't affect you, but it does. I started a true crime channel. That's a little way to plug my true crime channel. I wasn't planning on it, but uh,
Hey,
at Lamb Investigations. So I'm doing true crime, but yesterday we filmed one where I was sharing a crime from when I became sheriff, and we had a case where we get a 911 call for, I won't tell you everything but 911 call, girl 16 frantically screaming, "Hey, my brother's gone crazy, beating up my mom." By the time we show up, he's standing out there. We get him in custody, and we go inside the house, and there's 4 dead people, including mom, dad, 16-year-old, and the 5-year-old baby, and both of them, the two or 5-year-old girl, 2 of them decapitated. How do you process these things as a first responder, whether you're law enforcement or whether you're fire? How do you process this and have this not have an impact on you? These are things you're not supposed to see all the time. And I could tell you a ton of other experiences that I've had in my career, and we're always constantly trying to figure out, how do we get through this? How do we get our people through this so that we can reduce the trauma or the mental problems that it might cause on the backside, where somebody, once they retire or even before they retire, start to feel suicidal, or all these things start nagging at them. And so we were very proactive at our agency for the last 8 years that I was sheriff, of what kind of programs we could implement that would help. And we tried a lot of different things, and we used a lot of different things. One of the most beneficial things that I saw was Vitania, which was brain mapping. You didn't have to dig in and relive and rehash these old things. This just has a way of remapping your brain to where those things are back there in the back of your head, but they don't bother you. And I feel like this is some of that, that was one of the things that really helped me process being a politician and a law enforcement guy. Because I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of hate that comes with being out there at the front and trying to lead and stand up for what you believe in. There's a lot of people that just don't like you for that reason. And then I ran for Senate, and now I'm running for Congress. A lot of that ability to process the criticism and the hate that comes along with it is your ability to process trauma and process the things that we see and realize you are going to be okay. So anything that we can do to reduce law enforcement suicides, I've always been eager to be part of. And so I knew that the Heroes United, we had this coming up, and it was an opportunity to go out and be part of something that I'm passionate about, which is making sure that our men and women who put on the badge every day and serve our communities are okay.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you say it that way, because a lot of people don't really realize how much the first responders, um, whether it's law enforcement or even military, how much they actually go through from a day-to-day basis and what they have to face. And a lot of people don't really think about the aftermath of
No,
you know what I mean? Like, how do you process that? Even, from simple missions, like I've been on, I'm in the military. I've been on the border mission, and where I've even found things to be difficult, when it comes, we had a situation where we had a lady crawl underneath the fence of where we were at, or the wall, whatnot, and she was pregnant, right? And she got over, and I think her water broke in the midst of her crawling through this tunnel to get to the United States side. And so by the time she got over, bleeding everywhere, we had to have an emergency kind of situation to get her to the hospital and like things like that. And even though like we weren't, because we had eyes on, right? So we were there even just at a distance, but the the things that happened with those soldiers just by experiencing that was a very interesting and eye-opening thing for me, to realize that like it's the processing and how to deal with it and trying to compartmentalize or compartmentalize. Hopefully I'm not I'm making a fool of
Yeah,
myself when I'm trying to say
compartmentalize.
that words, but like
Like we don't get
it's
calls for,
difficult.
yeah, and we don't get calls for service for when somebody gets an A on their exam or something good happens. We get calls when there's accidents on the roadway, when somebody goes mad in their own home and kills people, or we're getting calls and we're responding to things that are very just you're not supposed to see them. It's just they're not. We weren't designed to just have that much stuff that we see every day and then figure out how to assimilate back into society in a way. Um, and unfortunately, not only is it suicide, but we also have, the average law enforcement guy lives about 5 years beyond retirement or 3 years beyond retirement. It's something really, really short. And a lot of that is the what we, the shift work, the foods we eat, the caffeine we put in our bodies. And it's 20, 30 years for some of these guys, maybe even more, of just going hard in the paint. And all of these things take a toll when all of a sudden everything goes radio silence. When I retired last year at the end of 2024, all of a sudden the next morning, you're the guy, you're the main guy, the radio's always chattering, you're going to work every day, and you always have issues you're dealing with, and personnel issues and community things you go to, and then bam, radio silence. And a lot of people, I don't know how, they just don't know how to process that. You get a guy, his whole career, he started at 20, 21 years old, maybe he was in the military before that, and all of a sudden at 45, 50 years old, he just retires one day and underestimates the silence on the other end when it just goes radio silent and nobody's checking on him. And then all of a sudden you start to reprocess all the things that you saw. And maybe if I would have shown up a little bit, 1 minute sooner over here, and then all that stuff starts to play. And you're sitting at home because you're retired, and all that stuff starts to work against you. And so I also started a business called 107 Consulting, because what we wanted to do was help our first responders and military veterans, give them purpose. Because when you retire, all of a sudden you think, where do I do now? We wanted to give them purpose. I think the biggest part of me keeping your mental health right, we got all these different programs, but in the end it's really staying busy and having a purpose in life and marching forward towards that purpose. And I think that's probably the best antidote to a lot of the things that we see and have to process throughout our career.
Yeah,
I like
I
that a lot.
yeah. Go ahead, Bo.
No, I from the outside, 'cause I'm not military. I've never law enforcement. Like it from the outside looking in, I do see the not. How do I explain that? It's you go from being the hero basically every day to then just not being needed. Is kind
Yeah,
of that instant switch. It's not like a fade out. Okay, you've transitioned, you can relax. It's just kind of cut off, and you go from being the I got to get this done. I'm helping people. I'm making a difference to what do I do? I'm doing nothing.
yeah.
So
The other
I
piece to
see that a
that,
lot.
and the other piece to that, my son talks about this all the time. He was in the military, 82nd Airborne. And to put this into perspective and make people understand it, it's like the Batman theory, okay? the chaos ensues and crime is going wild, and Batman is the hero and he comes in and saves the day. And then at the end, they want to charge him, and they hate him. They love him, but they hate him. And that's the problem with being the hero. You are the hero, but oftentimes we look throughout history and we look throughout all the movies, people end up turning on the hero in the end, and that's tough to process as well. You go in, you save somebody, and only to be criticized or to be labeled as the bad guy. Let's take away his qualified immunity. Let's obstruct them at every chance we get from doing their job. That's you want to say what's going on, but that is the way human beings treat heroes a lot of times. Is we're the Batmans, we come in, we save the day, and then people don't like how it looks, and then all of a sudden that we're the guy that they hate, and we have to step away from society because the hero has been ostracized, has been kicked out. So that's another part of the part that we have to process, and it's tough. Like you would think that people would be like, "Yay, parade, we saved the baby." No, no, that's not how it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of reminded of like the movie The Incredibles. Like he saved the dude, but then got sued by the guy he saved.
Yeah,
And people
yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's not a real thing, but then if you go look at that church shooting in Texas, the guy that actually stopped the bad guy in church was not only sued by the bad guy's family, but several members of his congregation opened a lawsuit against him.
And he's the hero,
Yeah, and he's the one that stopped them from getting shot.
right?
Like, I don't understand. Uh, Trying to explain that to people is really hard.
Yeah, but if you look at that's what I've said, you can probably point to a bunch of movies where, the hero of the day is and ends up not the hero of the day. So it's just the way it goes. And then we live in a society where everything is so short-lived, where people, one day it used to be without social media, without phones, without so much information constantly going into our heads, things would last a little longer. Now if something happens, we'll forget about it in a week or 2 weeks, certainly 6 months, a year. And so even when you have this great career and you serve, I've always told law enforcement people, I've said, look, don't let this job be who you are. Don't let this job control who you are in your home, because the day that you leave this job, the show goes on and they won't even skip a beat. I was the sheriff, one of the key figures in our agency. The next day, guess what? The show went on after I retired. It is, I think that is part of the trauma. That is part of the mental health problem. Is we see ourselves as this hero for so long, and you kind of almost in your mind, not that you really do, but you kind of think you're just going to have this grand exit, and everybody's going to be so grateful for the work that you put in, and then you realize nobody cared. The next day, somebody fills your beat and fills your position, and the show goes on. And all of a sudden, that guy's sitting at home or that lady's sitting at home thinking, what did I just spend my last 20 years doing, 25 years doing? Um, it wasn't even, you feel unthanked for the job. And so that's a lot of what processes, that's what I think a lot of it, really kind of aggravates the mind of a lot of the first responders. And then ultimately alcohol is a big problem. Alcohol contributes. Maybe you hurt yourself on the job, and there's you become addicted to opiates. Those are all things that will compound the mental health issues. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of trying to do what we can to help our first responders.
Yeah. And what about like on the leadership side? Because I know you've been in some very high, positions of leadership and things like that. And there's some leaders that, if people go and like say something or they try to go get help or whatever, it constricts their ability to progress in their career potentially. And And then there's others that like fully support it. You know what I mean? And there's no like congruency um,
Yeah.
from place to place. And even though like you know, I'm in the military, and you know they say you know it won't affect things, but to some people, like it absolutely will affect your ability to progress. And so people like they hold it in and they try to compress it and just medicate it or numb it with alcohol, like you were saying. But from a leadership standpoint, what do you feel like some things that leadership you know can do better um, to kind of you know give this into a better light to actually get the help that people need without having to like you know damage the careers, you know, because I think it should be able to help them even further, you know,
Yeah.
with the help.
When you ask for help in this profession, it oftentimes in the past has been a black eye. It all of a sudden it derails your career, like you were just saying. And so what we did at the sheriff's office is we tried to push that message out, like, hey, it's okay if you need help, come talk to us. Most guys don't take advantage of that because they truly don't believe it. And so what we do is we put programs together that gives them the ability to deal with it, but not have to feel like they have to go to their leadership and say, "Hey, I got a problem." That's why I liked Vitania. Vitania was probably one of the best things that we did. That we had guys that weren't sleeping well. They were back to sleeping well. They were back to being less irritable. It was probably one of the best programs that we did, and we ran a lot of our employees through it, and we had a lot of success with it. And what it did is they just went into a room and they were able to go through and deal with this stuff. They didn't have to rehash it. And so nobody, because we put so many officers through it, nobody really knew who had an issue or who was the one that was in there because they needed it. We just had an opportunity, we gave opportunity, and it really kind of provided some cover fire, for lack of a better description. It provided cover fire for those who did need help. They could kind of mix in with the everybody else, and they didn't feel like they had that black mark on them. But that is one of the challenges, and I think most leadership, they're about CYA. Most leaderships are just trying to cover their own butt, you know. And so oftentimes the troops end up becoming the pawns in the game. And one thing that we try to make to our people is like, we're here 100% to support you, and we are putting programs in place that will help you. We want to make sure that you're taken care of. You can come and talk to us if you need help, please. I mean, we really worked hard to try to get that message across and earn the trust of our people that if they needed help, they could get it. And the way we did that is we provided multiple programs for them to be able to use if they didn't feel comfortable saying something.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Giving them an avenue to where their leadership doesn't even need to know about it to some degree. Like that's a great way to go about it, I think.
Would it be
Um,
like that? The next step from that, would that be like this is a required for everybody? We don't care what your mental state is. Like you're gonna go talk to somebody, and that way everybody has to, and you don't know. It's not voluntary, it's a have to, and you don't know if they're there to get help or just talk.
You know, that sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's like socialism, you know, you don't want to be forced to do anything. We as humans, we push back against being forced to do something. And oftentimes when we need it the most is when we push back the most. We tried to
Yeah,
make our
just
programs volunteer based so that they would get the most out of it. If I forced them to do it, then we didn't always get the most out of it. Now, what we would do is, to your point, we would just say, because it would, like I said, it would provide cover for the other ones. We would just say, hey, we would love for you to go through this program, or so we just would pick big groups of them to go through. But you're right. It'd be nice, and some do mandate it. Some just say, "Hey, look, we did that for our child crimes detectives. We made them go through. I think every 6 months they had to go through an evaluation, just because of the stuff that they see." So sometimes forcing people or having them mandating them to do it, you don't get the right results because they didn't want to do it in the first place. Most of the time when you're dealing with mental health, they have to want to get help. So it sometimes it works, but I found that most of the time it works if you give them different options. What do you feel like would help you process what you're going through?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Um, well, I know, Mark, you got a freaking schedule that I'm not envy of. And so,
Well, so the last, for anybody that's not, if you're sleeping under a rock, this the Savannah Guthrie, Nancy Guthrie, the missing mother, that case has obviously dominated the news. Part because I think it's convenient because we've also had the Epstein files dropping, and so all of a sudden now you have this dominating the news where the news isn't talking about this other stuff. The other piece that I've been saying is, look, I'm all for them expending resources, the media doing what they're doing for the mother. There are a lot of other families who lose loved ones, who go missing. A lot of Native American women go missing. A lot of children go missing to the tunes of tens of thousands a year, and we don't give this effort to that, and we should. Maybe we should reevaluate the media. This would be a good use of the media, is to help find children that go missing, and a lot of other stuff. So I've been really busy doing interviews on that, and I keep making that plug, like, hey, I hope that we treat our missing children in the way that we're going after this case, because our missing children deserve us to go, and those families deserve this same type of attention. But oftentimes, most families are not going to get this type of attention. And I think there's probably a lot of families sitting out there right now going, "What the heck? I didn't get this kind of service, when I had a loved one go missing." So that's part of what I'm doing. I also am flying out to Georgia today. My son is graduating from Fort Benning. He's turning blue tomorrow. And then a couple days, and then they got the graduation tomorrow. Friday they do their big procession or their big parade, and then next week he goes back into airborne school, and ultimately I think right now he's assigned to Fort Bragg at 82nd Airborne when he's done with that. And if he chooses to do Ranger, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing tomorrow and the rest of this week. It'll be nice, a little break, and go focus on family and honor my son who's graduating from boot camp.
yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. And tell him thank you for his service,
I
and
will.
Absolutely.
definitely thank you for your service in all these years. It's very, very much appreciated. We need more leaders like you,
I
um,
appreciate it.
without a
And
doubt.
anybody who wants to follow me, I do a lot on YouTube now. So I do body cam breakdowns at Real American Sheriff. I'm doing the true crime at Lamb Investigations on YouTube. I'm most active on Instagram, which is American Sheriff on Instagram. And then I'm running for Congress. So if you want to come support that, you can do that at marklamb.us, marklamb.us. Um, Look, I appreciate the opportunity to come do this and help our first responders, and Bo and EJ. Thank you guys with Klinger Holsters for being willing to come out and support as well. It means a lot to the men and women who do this every day. In the end, what we do as a family and what I do is because we are patriots. I did an interview with Oliver North one time, and he asked, what is it you want to be remembered for? And I said, I want to be remembered by my grandkids as a patriot who fought valiantly for God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. And so everything we do every day is to fight for this country, to fight for freedom. And I feel blessed to have been able to do it and be in this profession, and feel blessed that you guys would have me on today and give me a little voice today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of a thing for Klinger that I've started pushing, is we are Christian based. Like Philippians
Excellent.
2:4 is our kind of how we live in our personal lives and with the business. So it's good to hear other people that are trying to make differences are faith based and not shy of it.
Amen. In a world where truth is hard to find, the scriptures tell you over and over again, trust in the
Mhm.
Lord. And that's really the only place you can really find that truth and trust. So that's our kind of what we do. And we just focus on doing the best we can in this life. So
Yep.
Yep.
It's awesome. Well, thank you again for your time, Mark.
Yeah, thank you
And
guys.
so we bring us to a close. Like, if anybody wants to put comments down, if you have questions or anything like that, I'm sure we'll be able to kind of answer, as they kind of come along. But appreciate your time again, and yeah, thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you. Have a great day. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.